What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are a podcast that lets you know the MMA podcasts you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week. My name is Pulver, and I'm here with my co-host yet again, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Trying not to die. I had a hell of a night last night. So, no drinking. I am drinking, and I'll get into that in a second, but I'm about done with the beer. So,
Right?
should say no more wine in my future.
At least white wine late at night after you're already shit-faced, probably, right?
Yeah, and it's ironic because I don't really like white wine, but this must have been some good shit since I killed a whole bottle.
Evidently. It sounds like it wasn't bad. Well, I am not drinking. Oh, actually, you know what? Before I get into what I'm drinking, why don't you kick us off with your Papa Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our sponsor.
So yeah, my unofficial sponsor, or our unofficial sponsor, comes from Stone. This is the kind of a classic, one of their staple IPAs that they have year round, the Tangerine Express IPA.
It's pretty good.
Solid. Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of one of those, I don't want to call it like inexpensive ones, but it's one of those big bottles you can get, I think, for like $5.
Yeah, something like that. You can get the bombers for I think like $5, less than that some places. Oops. And then you can get it's in all the variety IPA packs, I think, as well.
Yeah, it is. Yep. How about you, man? You said you got something special, I think, right?
Well, yes, and this is
a reason behind it.
There's 100% a reason, and it's one of these good news, bad news kinds of things. So, Society Brewing, one of my favorite breweries here in San Diego,
as well, mine too.
Yeah, so I picked up a growler. Shuts out of their the Butcher Imperial Imperial Stout. And it's really goddamn good. The reason why I would be pouring this higher up, but I'm afraid I'm going to spill Imperial Stout all over myself.
Oh, no
that's a bad move. Here you go. Wait, I got the fucking growler label. But it is so I think just in the last couple of days, they've announced that the brewmaster Travis Smith is actually going to be leaving Society. There was some weird statements, and I'm not exactly sure why. I think they just cited a difference of opinion, but everybody's still friends and everything. I don't know. It sounds like because that brewery's been pretty steadfast in the fact they don't go after like new styles. They'll just try and do their own shit. They had that amazing fermented or the wild, I forget what they call their wild program or their barrel age program, the feral program. But it's going to be interesting to see how that place changes. And that place is no longer the old one if you see a hazy IPA in that motherfucker, because they have notoriously chased after just like either old world styles like Belgians or sour stuff, or they made some amazing like Pilsners and light IPAs. The Pupil is amazing. I can't remember if it's the Coachman is the light IPA that's been killing it lately. The Session IPA, but yeah, this is the Butcher, their Imperial Stout. It's fucking delicious. I think it's one of the first beers I had of theirs, and it won 2013 GABF gold medal for stouts, I believe.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a really good beer. I think it's one of the first ones I tried as well. Just solid all around, solid brewery. Sucks that the guy's leaving.
Yeah, we'll see how much it actually changes, and I'm interested to see where he ends up, because that'd be fucking cool if he either moves to another place or starts his own place. So interesting to see how it goes, but I'm just curious to see how that changes. So since the guy is actually leaving tomorrow, Friday the 22nd, and we're recording this Thursday night on a rare Thursday night show, I wanted to get a growler of that and go ahead and see how well I handle this Imperial Stout after being sick as shit for the last 48 hours. So,
yeah, based on what you told me, it sounds like you're struggling. I mean, I'd rather take being hungover than your situation right now, at least. So, but then again, I'm hungover a little too often anyway. So what's
fair? Yeah, no, I've either had the flu or food poisoning super bad for the last 48 hours. So if I start to get real fucking drowsy halfway through this thing or hammered,
Did you have any seafood or sushi or like shrimp? Because usually that's what does it to me.
Nah, dog. I had a fucking Starbucks breakfast sandwich, which might have done it.
Okay, that's a big red flag.
That might have done it.
Because I've had one of those, and they're
not
easy on the bowels.
Sure not. But also, girlfriend Karen's mom has the flu super bad, and so and now girlfriend Karen seems like she has the flu super bad. So I'm starting to think that might have been where I got it from. But I'm gonna go ahead and power on through, and this may be a bit of a shorter show this week. We will see. It feels like there wasn't a ton of MMA podcasts, if I'm being honest.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. I was like, "Fuck, is that it?" And don't get me wrong, we're doing this Thursday as well because I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to Arizona for Padres spring training, so I kind of was like, "Oh shit, I need to start listening to some podcasts." Kind of difficult when I feel like deaf today, feeling hungover. So and I ended up sleeping about 3 hours longer than I wanted to, so that was like 2 hours missed on some podcasts. But it's the way she goes sometimes. So yeah, we probably should get into this shit. Want me to just go ahead and get into format?
Yeah, Jump. Why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
So I have two of them. The first one I'll start off with is Heavy Hands, which is very consistently good, week in and week out.
It was really good. It's actually the intro for our show this week.
I remember that intro. And Phil McKenzie. So I'm gonna just go through some just quick notes that I want to say. They said the UFC booked this main event because they're hoping to get some good gifts out of it. Gifts as in GIF, not gifts like presents.
Right.
I know I used to call it GIFs, but I guess it is gifts, I believe.
Nope. Backwards, but it doesn't matter either way. The guy who invented it says it's GIFs, but if he's enough of an asshole to say you're supposed to say GIF, I would say call it whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, when I think of GIF, I just think of the peanut butter. Some might call it GIFs. But anyways, Benson Henderson is the only karate guy Pettis has fought, I think Connor was saying, or at least...
Yeah, the closest analogy they could find.
Yeah, and I like that analogy. They think bigger opponents expose Pettis' footwork. They said they used a Max Holloway fight as an example. They admitted, yes, it was Pettis at 145, which he probably shouldn't have done that or tried to do that.
Yeah, he looked terrible. And he missed weight, didn't he?
Yeah, by like a pound and a half. I think he's like 146 and a half. But they said they think Wonder Boy has better footwork and will need to use it a lot to score points and keep distance. Or they're saying Pettis will need to use more footwork to keep distance away from, well, I guess to kind of, we'll talk about when we get into the fight.
Yep.
They said Pettis, we've never seen him at welterweight. Maybe he might be faster at this weight and something can work well. Phil says he needs to try and go for a closed stance, an open stance in this fight. They both like Thompson in this, but Connor says he's very untrustworthy and conspires to put on poor performances. Connor thinks he's like, let me just fuck with the fans here.
Yeah, pretty much. To be fair, some of those fights, you're like, man, you're really just not trying to gain any fans with this shit.
They discussed Davison Figueiredo versus Jussier Formiga, which I believe may or may not be one of the last flyweight fights. We keep saying this; it's being teased. Who the fuck
knows?
But they said they give credit to Figueiredo being a overwhelming physical force at that weight class. And then after that, of course, they discussed Colonel Masvidal giving Leon the 3-piece with the soda. And as you were discussing before you and I started recording, this is talked about a lot for good reason initially, but then it's just kind of just.
I already hate the phrase 3-piece in a soda because I've heard every single podcast like dying about it this week.
Yeah, there's all these memes are created and sent to Jorge Masvidal, which I would laugh if I was him because it was funny. I love that video. I think it's fucking great.
Yeah, no, it's hilarious. It just sucks that everybody has to parrot the shit out of everything and ruin it.
Yeah, the one comment that I did like someone made was, and I like was 4-piece no biscuit. I like that one.
Yeah, pretty solid. I think the one other thing that so our intro actually was Heavy Hands this week, which was them Phil McKenzie talking about how Jorge Masvidal is like 5 or 8 years older than Leon Edwards.
Yeah, like he was like sunning him or whatever.
Yeah, and then he also said that no one, like, he doesn't like to see anyone get into altercations like that backstage and scuffles unless you're Jake Shields. That's the only time it's acceptable. I think the line is, if you're not Jake Shields, don't throw hands with randoms, which is fucking amazing.
So I can't recall if we're doing any sort of cover art lately because I can't remember.
I've been too lazy to Photoshop it together.
So
honestly.
I found one on a YouTube video. I just lazily taken a screenshot with my phone on like looking on my monitor, but I guess this is shortly after the fight. On Wikipedia, it says, as of March 4th, this is Leon Edwards' Wikipedia page. As of March 4, 2019, he's number 10 in the official rankings. It says, but he lost to Jorge Masvidal via 3-piece Popeye combo. That's what someone wrote in Wikipedia. And then if you go to where it shows like when he was born, so yeah, he's 27. He turns 28 in August. He's born in Jamaica. I didn't know that. Kingston, Jamaica. It says born and it says died, assassinated by Jorge Masvidal, according to Wikipedia. But then when I went and looked, I was like, oh, they already took it down. But I got a picture of it, so fuck it. Shit hilarious. Like that's always funny. People do that a lot, especially with NFL, anything that's popular.
Oh yeah, because Wikipedia, that shit's easy to get away with. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, that was a really solid episode. It almost made one of my catches this week.
And then I was gonna say I only have another catch.
Oh, you know what? I actually have 2 this week, so I'll jump in on one, and then we can get to your other one.
Yeah, go for
it. So my first catch this week is Menace and the Man, episode 21, which is the show hosted by
Dennis right?
Bermudez and Stan the Man. And it's really solid. The Liz Carmouche called in to open up the episode. She talks about dieting during camp. And then she talks about Braylon Chapman a whole bunch, who I know from, Jesus, I don't know if it was elementary school or middle school that I ended up knowing her from originally. But, I mean, I've known Braylon for a while. I remember she used to always go to the house parties with Dalia and Max way back in the day. Like I remember a couple Halloween house parties we were hanging out at. But anyway, it's fun hearing her, like Liz talk about going out to dinner with Braylon, who she's now married to, and awesome. Basically like making Braylon eat a bunch of food and shit, and always making her food, trying to get her fat since Liz can't eat.
Well, because I was gonna say last time when we saw Liz Carmouche, I imagine she eats very strict, considering how fucking shredded she is. So. Oh shit. Yeah, you still there?
Ridiculous.
Wait, are you still there?
I'm gonna keep going and hopefully you'll catch back up because I can hear you, but evidently you can't hear me. Worst case, I'll have you drop off and reconnect. So it looks like Braylon Liz talked a bit about being in the Marine Corps and finding MMA, and evidently the Menace and the Man episode 20 was recorded right before this episode. Just a solid one altogether. They talk a bit about TJ popping, and that's why Dana White wasn't on episode 20 when he was supposed to be. Dennis also tells a story about the first time he tried Four Locos, which we will play a clip of a bit later. Chris, you back?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I figured it would reconnect and shit. So I just kept going.
We're good. It just showed your face like for like fucking like a solid like minute. I was like, oh shit.
Funny. Let's see. So after that, Pat Cummins called in to talk about for Menace and the Mustache episode 1. They joked about talking about Pat's upcoming fight against Ed Herman in May. And they also talk about one time when Pat and Dennis slept in the same elevation tent one night. Which was fucking weird. They also talk about going to the Korean spa together back in the day and how you got to avoid all the creepy dudes at the Korean spa, which was pretty hilarious. And then Whitaker called in to talk about the surgery and recovery. And then him and Dennis talked about video games like for fucking ever. Like
that's Whitaker, easy to do but between those two guys.
For sure. Robert talked about playing Apex and back in the day how he used to play Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights with his brother. And they get into fist fights over it. Which was hilarious. And evidently Robert Whitaker is streaming on Twitch now as well.
I'm surprised he didn't do that sooner. I bet that dude could probably put on good content.
I think he has 1 subscriber right now on Twitch, or at least that's what he said during the episode. So I think he's only done like 1 or 2 streams. So it'll be cool to see that dude get on there more.
Well, I'll just say I did play some Apex today as I was catching up on podcasts. However, I can't wait till Monday, I believe it is, because Battlefield 5's Battle Royale looks absolutely fantastic from all the gameplay they revealed today. Kind of looks like if PUBG was a AAA.
Yeah, I'm still curious how that thing's going to turn out. Like you're gonna have to be so good with sniper rifles for that thing. I feel like
I am. At least I'm really good on console.
Terrible sniper rifles and everything.
Yeah, so I know I'll be good with that. But either way, yeah. I mean, check that shit out too. But then again, you and I still need to get that dub. I need to get that dub with you on Apex. So.
For real. Cool, man. Well, why don't you jump into another MMA podcast you recommend people catch?
So another one I recommend people catch is the A-Side live chat with Mark Raimondi and the other guy whose name I always forget.
Sean Al-Shadi. Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
It is Al-Shadi, yeah. They said, so for people who've been living under a rock for the past day and a half, TJ Dillashaw tested positive for a banned substance. What I say, potentially? No, he definitely was. He got suspended for a year. As of now, it was by the New York State Athletic Commission because this was from his fight. It was during in-competition testing against Henry Cejudo back in January is when they fought, January 19th, something like that. So he decided to voluntarily relinquish the belt. So it's vacant. Like, holy shit, that's insane. So there was not a current bantamweight title holder right now. It is up for grabs. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Matt Serra, and I didn't listen to Unfiltered, but I watch MMA World, that one like aggregator site or the aggregator channel, which is very good. The guy does a lot of work, edits in a lot of quotes and reactions and shit, and a lot of MMA news. But Matt Serra was thinking, why the hell would TJ Dillashaw voluntarily relinquish it if he was innocent?
Yeah, Matt was talking about that on UFC Unfiltered 250.
Yeah, so I mean, we could talk about this now. Should we just get it out of the way now?
Yeah, might as well.
Thought? Okay, so I think it was a diuretic because of his cut to 125. Because if it was a steroid or PED, wouldn't he be automatically pinned for 2 years? Or is that something they're kind of waiting on? The jury's still out on that.
Well, athletic commission suspensions are much different than USADA suspensions.
And USADA, okay. Is USADA
I don't know
the 2 year one?
Yeah, USADA is 2 year. I believe it also depends on what he popped for. I don't know if athletic commissions would give a full 1 year ban for a diuretic. Then again, it's New York, and New York's kind of untested with a lot of this shit still.
Yeah, that's
so who knows? But yeah, diuretic is the one thing everyone would assume, right? Especially since it was the time he dropped to 25.
And I know a podcast kept bringing up, Jack Slack brought up, just look at that clip back when Cody and TJ fought for the first time at Madison Square Garden. It was like,
you taught us how to do PED.
Yeah, you taught us how to do it, or something like that. He's like, he's been on EPO or whatever his whole career, and I remember, dude, like for the past 5 or 6, I read a gyno nips. It's a sign, shit like that.
A lot of people. UGS Robinson's been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, I mean, innocent until proven guilty at this point. He is guilty of something if he's already been suspended for a year. I think it's a diuretic. If it is a PED, sure. I mean, I remember a friend of Jake, who you met, who we need to get on this podcast.
Yeah, Jake's great.
He had texted me. All he texted was "laugh out loud, Dillashaw," and then I said, thank God he wasn't pulsing, otherwise he'd be off the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. They said, there's only been a few times in history where champions tested positive for some sort of discrepancy. If it's a PED, possible 2 year ban. They said it happened to Josh Barnett and then, of course, John Jones. And infamously, it's been happening to him just last month. So, but we know it's okay because he's pulsing. It said the flyweight division is probably over for sure. Now, too many people are getting cut or released, I should say. They think Cejudo should fight Moraes for the vacant title. As far as that title picture, I would do Aljo. I would do Aljamain Sterling
the
versus
rematch.
Moraes. Just a rematch. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I would do.
it'd be
Because
interesting.
Henry Cejudo I mean, this is the thing. If Dana White were to say, okay, the flyweight division's over, then yeah, I guess you could maybe say Henry Cejudo should deserve a shot, kind of. But just because he's a champion, I mean, he's a very talented fighter, and don't get me wrong, he would give Marlon Moraes. I think it'd be a pretty fucking good fight because Moraes isn't huge for. Well, he is huge for a bantamweight. He's fucking jacked. I don't know. There's a lot of different things you could do. Some people even think Pedro Munoz. I don't know about Pedro Munoz. I think pump the brakes on that a little bit. I think he needs one more fight. But at this point, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting fights. What do you think? I think it should be Aljamain versus Moraes. No matter what, Moraes deserves that shot.
Yeah,
100%.
Moraes definitely deserves the shot. Yeah, the only thing is because he iced Aljo so fucking clean.
That's true.
But I don't know who else you would put in there because Dom's injured. Otherwise, I would say Dom.
I know, dude. Fuck, that would have been his goddamn time, dude. He would have gotten Oh, they would have given.
And Moraes versus Dom would be a fucking dope fight. So that'd definitely be legit, but I don't think that'll happen. So I don't know who else is towards top.
Yeah, we could always talk about it later, but that's definitely interesting. Whatever they're going to decide with the bantamweight division, I'll keep rolling through here. They said, just imagine if Dillashaw was the flyweight champ too. Like Jesus. That'd be absolutely fucked. They said USADA has tested him 39 times since they began, which is a lot. I think he was tested 13 or 14 times just in 2018 alone. They talked about Ben Askren's next potential matchup. They said, was he screwed because of the brawl that Colonel Masvidal started? Mark Raimondi disagrees. Says there's too many contenders and that division's too stacked. Askren could fight just about anyone in the top 10. I agree.
Yeah.
You give him Ponzinibbio. Fuck it. I don't know. Someone. You know, you could fight a lot of different. There's a lot of matchups, and that's the point they were making. They think that's what they said. They said, I think he should fight Ponzinibbio or Wonderboy next, regardless of the outcome of Wonderboy versus Pettis.
I'd do the Wonderboy fight. I think that'd be fun as hell. I think that's a very tough matchup for Ben. But if Ben can get him down once, then Wonderboy's fucked.
Oh, yeah, it's over. Yeah. But then again, Wonderboy could wheel kick his head off. So who knows?
Yeah.
Spinning some crazy shit. They said pay-per-views on ESPN Plus is great for the UFC. And that's the thing, too. So what should I do? Should I resubscribe to ESPN Plus and get rid of Fight Pass? Because $15 a month combined is whatever. It's not.
Yeah, the only reason I'm going to keep Fight Pass is because of EBI and Invicta and Cage Warriors, but also mostly it's for the catalog because that's how I do tape study. So
I was going to ask you, are they going to be adding more fights or some sort of fight library to ESPN Plus?
I think they're just doing collections and shit from what I've seen.
Okay. Well, because they said, according to Dave Meltzer, it was reported that 75% of the fans who order pay-per-view, they currently watch through satellite, whether it's DirecTV or Dish or any satellite you have, or cable, which is insane. Not surprising, though. They said this deal would never have happened if there was a fighters union because pay-per-view points will now be affected.
Well, I've heard you can also order pay-per-views through UFC.tv still.
So Fight Pass will still have pay-per-view orders?
So you can still order them through Fight Pass, yeah.
Okay,
but it's going to cost you $5 more than it would for ESPN because ESPN is the $5 plus because it's $60 for the pay-per-view plus $5 for ESPN Plus, or it's $65 on Fight Pass. It's all so fucked. All of this is a giant fuck you to a lot of fans because there's no reason why they couldn't have made this more of a discount. Or at least given some kind of fucking deal.
This is so fucking dumb.
Yeah, it's a big money grab. The reason why they're leaving. So from what I've heard, I still need to learn more about it because new news is constantly coming out about it. But from what I understand, ESPN is now giving the UFC a certain flatline number of pay-per-view pay for every card, and then they have some kind of revenue split for how many it actually sells. So that's why, because basically ESPN is paying the UFC to make it their only like big access point for pay-per-views, and as a result, ESPN is paying the UFC a flat line rate, and then they're splitting after what we assume is after a certain amount of a pay-per-view sold, they're splitting the additional revenue.
That's true. It's a very good point. point.
Which is great for the UFC, but kind of fucked for everybody else because it doesn't do fans any favors. It makes it way more of a hassle, and they're not really giving you any monetary incentive to not do illegal shit. How about that?
Yeah, it's
goddamn piracy.
I don't know. I'll figure something out. I think what I'll just do is because I like ESPN Plus. I mean, I'm not a soccer fan by any means, but I love the 30 for 30s. You know what I mean? I'm a fucking sports nut, so I'll just get it back and it'll just be worth it. It's $5 fucking dollars. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, so many of the prelims are on ESPN Plus at this point in time anyway. That
yeah, I'll just return to if I get. I mean, yeah. Okay, yeah. So that was my other catch.
Cool, man. Yeah, that was a pretty solid one for sure. That was in the middle of when I started dying from the flu. So I had very little notes about that one, but it was a good one from the bit I remember of it. Let's see. My other catch this week is Half the Battle, episode 264. Shaq is out sick for their recap episode of UFC London. So Dan Tom guests, along with Dan, I believe is the other guy's name. Dan Levi, I think. And it's just really good. They talk about Jorge Masvidal surviving the knockdown and finding the reads on Till. Talk about Till's game being mostly all left-sided, whether it be left hooks or left kicks. For a lot of times, how they talk about how a lot of times fighters who are coming off a title shot get rubbed from from the bookmakers and fans, even if they didn't really earn it. Especially when it comes to betting lines. Of course, they talk about the 3-piece and a soda, just like everybody else. And they talk about some of the rough decisions on the card. Overall, it's just a lot of fun. I really like Dan Tom. I think he's hilarious. And him and Dan Levi were very funny together on that episode. So I highly recommend it.
What did you think of that Masvidal win from last week? I was looking at the bets, dude, and I was like, holy fuck. I mean, I didn't have a comfortable $100 to spend, but man, Masvidal in round 2 was like plus fucking 1,700. I was like, oh my god.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have taken him early anyway. I think I had him KO round 4 or so.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments where it's just Till didn't see the shot, and that's what knocks you out. So when you don't see it.
Well, he also didn't see the ones that he got clubbed with like 13 times before that. But yeah, that switch stance overhand. He was getting
boxed up. It kind of did look like one of those backyard fights. The way it is the exchanges. It's just he just kind of had like that high fuck. Still had like the Muay Thai stance, but he was just clipping him with dude like. Masvidal looked like he's on a fucking mission, man.
Yeah.
I was really excited for him.
Masvidal was wilding by the end of that fight, just winging fucking hooks.
Yeah, and someone, I can't remember who it was. If it was Reddit, someone said this reminded them of the Woodley knockout of Jay Heron.
I haven't seen that in a while, but it wouldn't surprise me. Jay Heron.
Yeah, but it's because Woodley kind of has like that wild switch, like he goes to the feint switches and then hits him with the fucking left and just puts his fucking. He doesn't get knocked out like Till did, but his fucking legs are just looks like fucking Gumby.
Well, and Woodley clipped Till with a similar kind of switch stance right hand too.
Yeah, like right.
Where he half pivots back and then throws the right.
So I guess since we're talking about it, 185. Right for Till.
Yeah, I was saying that before this fight. There's no reason.
Yeah, we've been saying that since he missed weight against Wonder Boy, but it has to happen at this point. I remember you and I think last week we were discussing, or maybe I think I was talking to you on St. Patrick's Day when we were over here grilling and shit.
Which was fun as hell, by the way.
Yeah, that was dope, man. I'm glad that fucking the corned beef hash came out pretty good, even though it's kind of more like a stew, but. Yeah, I remember we were discussing who should Till fight. We're like, Brad Tavares, right, or something like that, or.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, he matches up well with a lot of the bottom 15 in that division, just because they're a lot less athletic and they're not as good of wrestlers generally, which is he's not the quickest dude ever, which Heavy Hands was talking about as well. So if he moved up to 85, he'd have a couple different advantages. Most of which being there isn't the crazy wrestling ability at 85 until you hit that top 5 like there is at 170 all the way through.
Yeah, and that reminds me too. I think Luke Rockhold has found his new home now at 205. And he's taking on Jan Blachowicz. believe I just saw today.
That's a weird fight. I don't know how to
Because
feel about
Jan
that.
can't really wrestle too well, but he's got a killer jab. And if you look at just, I mean, a lot of Luke's past fights, especially against David
Rockhold
Branch,
doesn't do well with
like, what
left
do I do
hands.
with my hands?
Yeah,
What do I
yeah.
do with my hand? Let me just use my head. So I don't know. I mean, it's weird. It's like a 50-50. Either he's gonna take Jan down and probably submit him, but Jan has decent. I mean, probably not as good jiu-jitsu as Rock. I don't know.
Rockhold's top game is so fucking good.
It's insane.
It's just the fact that his striking, he just strikes and then puts his chin straight up in the air and back straight out.
Yeah, after Jared Cannonier probably murders Silva, or maybe not. I think unfortunately he will.
Dude, yeah, after his last fight. It's
I think you definitely give Till, like, you can just give him Elias Theodoro, but they need someone who would also sell, because
Till versus Elias Theodoro, it would be the funniest fight, and I'm all here for it.
I think what they'll do is they'll have him fight David Branch or Tavares or something like that, and put it like on a pay-per-view on like the prelims.
I think Elias Russell fucks the shit out of Till.
Good point. David Branch probably too, right?
Oh yeah, David Branch legit fucking kills Till on the ground. Unless he gets caught coming in, I think that he would get housed. But who knows? I've said that about a lot of David Branch fights, and I've gotten a lot of David Branch fights wrong. So
yeah. Anyways, I don't want to keep talking about that. It's a lot of exciting things for Till. The dude's only 26. He's got a big future ahead of him. That guy could do a lot of different things.
Yeah, for sure.
Time, so
for sure. Cool. Well, why don't we keep on moving on? Why don't you give us your MMA podcast you recommend people skip this week?
Don't necessarily have a full-on skip. I guess it would be the MMA Complex with Josh and James, kind of, because they kind of – it was like a 45-minute long episode, which is fine. But for like the first 8 minutes, they weren't – or 10 minutes, they weren't talking about anything MMA related. And I hate having to just kind of skip, ahead.
Yeah, we always keep things MMA related for the first 10 minutes.
That is true, though, too. Yeah, right? It's like you hypocritical motherfuckers.
Oh, 100%. Like we say every week, I should give the Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer. Just because we say to skip your podcast doesn't mean we hate your podcast or we hate you. It just means that, I don't know, we skipped over either this podcast or this part of a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Or we skipped through your podcast.
Or wish we did.
Yeah. But it was solid. It was a decent episode, but yeah, it was a little too much off-topic stuff in the beginning, kind of bits and pieces, and not for a 40-minute episode, You shouldn't really have like a fucking quarter, or more than a quarter of your fucking episode. Just, I don't have to explain anymore.
Where you go like Brendan Schaub style, where the first third of your show is about your kid's birthday party and this drugged out Spider-Man.
Wait, what? What happened?
You didn't hear about that? You didn't hear that one? Where evidently he hired somebody to do like a Spider-Man character at his kid's birthday, and the guy was clearly high on meth. And they were at like this jumpy, they were at like one of those trampoline jump centers, and then Spider-Man was way too amped up and freaking out, and then Spider-Man crashed like 2 hours in.
Like crashes and just passed out?
Well, he started out really high energy, and then he just lost all energy. And Brendan was saying like, "Hey, so do you want to go over and like, talk to the kids or whatever?" He's like, "No, I'm good, man."
Oh man, that's a shame.
It's pretty evidently Spider-Man was also a little overweight and was fucking clearly so high on coke. That was again off topic, but it was pretty good.
Oh man, like I don't. How old is Brendan's kid? Because I was saying, how do you explain that to?
The kid was way young.
Oh,
his kid's like a couple years old. Yeah.
Yeah, kid won't know, but still.
No, but Brendan, Brendan's like Brendan. He's just talking to his wife, like, "Where the fuck did you get this Spider-Man from?"
That sounds hilarious, actually, in a fucked up way.
It's pretty great. It was one of the below the belts a couple weeks ago. It was actually pretty good. Cool, man. Yeah, that. I could totally see why that's a skip, though.
Yeah, and nothing against those guys. It's been a while since I listened to it, but yeah, it is what it is.
I hear that. So my skip this week is MMA Junkie Radio, episode 2881. Man, I like MMA Junkie Radio. I just feel like they end up on a skip list so often because I think a lot of it is because they're just filling time since they do 5 days a week. That's a lot.
Yeah,
like 2 hours, 5 days a week is a lot of fucking show. Yeah, it's just kind of rough. The first 30 minutes is all about Connor and who Connor should fight. Which, like, who the fuck cares? And they talk about whether he should get shares of the company and all that. It's like,
by the way, I hate to keep talking about Connor since you're already sick of it, but did you see how he, the Boston Bruins?
About how he's coked up on a bar in Boston?
Yeah, he looked like way too this is what you have to fucking do, like Brad Marchand, who's a great hockey player for the Bruins. He's just looking at him like, what the fuck is going on? And Brad Marchand's already a weird guy. He licks people on the ice and gets penalized for that. That's his strategy. He's like, let me try to gross out the opposing team.
That is definitely
if you can freak him out, then you're on another level.
Yeah, that's a creep move for sure. The easy way, by the way, to tell how coked up Connor looks is I started watching that video with the sound off. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, or the other video where notice how he always, and you can go back to the Ultimate Fighter when he was on there, he wears like those polo shirts that are way too tight, like up here.
And he's just
like this, just going like this, with his fucking hands. And someone's like, why does his head look way too big for his shoulders? Like, probably because of the beard, but it's also mostly the shirt.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, that was not the best way ever to start that off. They also then talk about the new ESPN deal and how it's going to be good for fans because Junkie is not afraid to show a little bit. They were supposed to have Mike Brown on, but he bailed evidently.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, and then Marlon Vera calls in, which was fine. It was an okay Marlon Vera interview, nothing special. And then Angie Hill calls in, and her audio keeps cutting out the whole time, which is super frustrating. Talks about wanting to get a finish in the UFC, and it was a good Angie Hill interview from what I heard, but her audio was just in and out the whole time. So overall, it was a skip for me because it was frustrating to listen to on a couple different levels.
That's a shame, but totally understandable though.
Yeah.
I see why.
For sure. Cool. We'll keep on moving on. Why don't you kick us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people can't miss this week?
So for me, and I listen to this show probably once every 2 or 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I need to listen to more. It was JRE MMA.
Episode 59 with Kamaru Usman. Might as well.
Usman. Yeah, I'm not gonna call him Marty anymore. It was kind of fun with Venezuela. It's just like I get it. He explains what it was. And it was just literally an instance of his coach going, Kamaru Dean Usman Kamaru. How do you fuck it? How's Marty?
Yeah, right. He's talked about that on Menace and the Man back in the day as well.
Yeah, because that's what usually what happens when your family you emigrate over to a new country. I don't want to say the term anglicize, but that's what happened. You anglicize your name or you
quite literally
Americanized name.
Madaffer.
Yeah, right. I think I should change it back to Modafferi, though.
There you go. Your cousin.
Yeah. My cousin. Kamaru brings up points about kids training MMA now and sparring each other starting at age 10. He thinks that's kind of a little insane.
100%.
Dangerous.
Yeah, no, there should be no head contact at that age.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Shame on any parent or coach.
Yeah, you can totally do pad work. You can totally do drills. You can totally grapple full force, but you can't receive shots to the head that young.
That's really bad. Your kid's going to be fucking punch drunk by the time he's 16, 17. No. Yeah, both IQs will literally be depleted. Fight and thought Yeah. I like the point Joe brought up. He said he thinks in the difference between boxing and MMA, he thinks Marvin Hagler from 1993 can hang with middleweight boxers today. However, champion UFC fighters from 1993 could not hang now. I agree 100%. Yeah. I don't know if I should say couldn't hang, but I don't think they'd win. Kamaru Usman talks about the first time he met John Jones in 2005 during his freshman year of college at a house party in Ohio. I think they were watching Randy Couture fight.
Yeah, it was back in 2005-ish or something like that.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, near 2006-ish. Kamaru doesn't hate what Colby Covington's doing in the trash talking part because it's gotten him this far. He says he hopes he keeps it up because he wants an enemy or rival similar to the Conor versus Habib hype. I like that point.
He also says he's gonna beat the shit out of Colby for every immigrant that's ever moved to this country, which I fucks with so bad. Since, by the way, I don't know if y'all know this. Pro tip: we're all immigrants. Everyone in this country is an immigrant. That's how this country works.
You don't need to do Ancestry.com or DNA test. I mean, unless you truly don't know where the fuck your family's from, just ask your parents.
But also, pro tip, you're less Native American than you think you are. So,
yeah. Unless you're my grandpa on my mom's side, evidently. He's like fucking more than 50%. Good for him. I mean, yeah.
Let me guess. Yeah. Oh, I almost made a fucked up joke. I'm not even gonna do it.
Go for it. Well, maybe not.
We've got a good beer selection.
Yeah, right. Actually, he wasn't too much of a drinker.
Oh, he's the one. You found the one.
Yeah. Kamaro says this.
I don't feel good about any part of that joke. If it makes anybody feel better, an ex-girlfriend I had, her and every one of her family members were all giant alcoholics, and they were straight off the reservation, and not in like the colloquial sense of the term. So
then again, though, coming from me, who just drank a whole bottle of wine and blacked out last night, I got some of those genes.
Yeah, no, I'm a way bigger drunk than most Native Americans. Let's get that straight.
What surprised me, but didn't also surprise me, is Kamara says he only walks around about 190 pounds, so it's like a 20-pound weight cut.
But also he works out so hard and he's so clean.
And he says it's because he's lean and he has like 6% body fat, which I totally fucking see.
He's super clean.
I'm probably gonna fuck up the name. I think he says he cuts weight with Clint Hinsberg. At the UFC Performance Institute and at
I always forget Clint's last name. Yeah, Clint.
It's like Hinsberg or something.
He wanted to say Clint Hester, but that's the guy who fought in the UFC.
No, that's the boxer. That guy's at Black Zillions. Clint Hester is at Black Zillions. Excuse me.
It's Clint somebody.
I always forget the new name.
I don't remember, but yeah, Clint somebody at the UFC PI. He's like the go-to guy who does all that stuff.
The only other notes I have is Kamaro's had 5 knee surgeries since he can't run anymore. He just chooses not to.
Crazy.
He says all the wrestling kind of just fucked up his knees.
He also mentioned he had a broken foot and a double hernia going into the Tyron fight.
That's crazy.
Fucking insane.
Yeah. He said Eddie Alvarez has been a huge inspiration in preparing him for that title fight. He's like he said he's like a brother to him. And he said that he talked to him a lot about his fight against RDA and it's kind of that watching tape study that fight helped him as well, or just helped him prepare, I should say. And then the only other notes I had, because I think I listened to about like 2/3 of this. He told the story of his first professional loss, or his only MMA loss. That's right, to Jose Caceres, Alex Caceres' older brother.
That's a great story.
And yeah, it's basically saying, if you don't tap out and you get choked out. I can't fight for 6 months because I'm medically suspended. I need money, so fuck it, I gotta tap. And that's a good point. You need to be able to fight.
Yeah, it's a really good story, and I've been a big fan of Kamaru Usman for a long time since I remember him way back in the day. I don't know,
Titan, right?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. I remember he was doing commentary with John Morgan for Titan, which I fucking absolutely loved. I thought it was fantastic. So, I've heard him on podcasts over the years, and I've heard him talk a bunch. He's a super smart dude, super entertaining. Seems like a sweetheart. Like, I'm a big Kamaru Usman fan. So
I like him.
It's cool.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, it's cool to hear him get some shine on Joe Rogan's podcast because everybody for the longest time was just every time he got brought up was just saying, 30%. And you're like, motherfuckers, like you all don't know Kamaru Usman.
Excuse me, or now Marty, but
exactly. But it's one of those things where like y'all motherfuckers have not been following this dude since he's been smashing motherfuckers since forever.
The only part of the podcast I thought it wasn't cringe, but it's a little kind of like, why did he say that? It was when he talked about when Ben called him, hey Marty, we used to train. He said, he's like, I wasn't angry. He says he wasn't angry at Ben, but then he goes on to say, I had like that blackout rage. Well, isn't that anger? Like what? Like you're like I didn't get what he was trying to say. It's like, it's okay. You can admit you were mad that he called you Marty. Like we clearly can see that.
See, I don't think he was mad that he was calling him Marty. I think he's just pissed at Ben Askren in general for talking so much.
Yeah. Well, and to keep the same energy, so you can't be talking this shit online and then pretend we're buddy. I get where he's coming from there.
I love that every UFC fighter started picking up that phrase fucking in the last like six weeks.
Especially Ben. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna keep that same energy.
Well, because Tyron taught him what it meant.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I remember that.
That great video
from
the media luncheon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking hilarious. And then what? Didn't Ben have that shirt that said "curly headed fuck"?
Yeah, that was really good. Which they wouldn't let him show on ESPN Plus, unfortunately.
God damn it. Yeah.
So good. Anyway, so yeah, man, that was a fantastic episode. I highly recommend people check it out. Usman is a super interesting guy. Let's see. Did you have any new shows you listened to this week?
Unfortunately not. I got to find a better way of like finding new shows because I know I usually use MMA Podcasts.
You know what? I'll share you on a doc I have of shows I haven't even gotten to.
I think you did when I saw you on St. Patty's Day. I think I flagged it in my email.
Okay, worst case, I'll share you on it again because yeah, I've got a doc where I just every time I hear of a new show, I put it in there. So, and I've got so many I've never touched that have been in there for fucking. I've got a couple that have been in there so long the show has ended for 6 months and I never got to it. So I will share you on that. The only new show I listened to this week since I was sick as shit and didn't have time to listen to a lot of stuff was Knuckleheads episode 1. It's another TJ DeSantis production. Him and Rob Tatum did a show. I don't know if they're gonna do these like consistently. I imagine they might because Rob Tatum consistently does the daily wrap for Between Rounds Radio. And I believe he might end up like this seems like a show that him and TJ could just jump on and do news stories when they wanted. It's I think like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. Nice quick episode. It's all about the ESPN Plus deal and the new pay-per-view deal they set up. So they talk about how difficult it is to find ESPN Plus in the App Store until you realize that it's within the actual ESPN app.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah. No, I make that mistake still to this day when I'm like, where's the ESPN Plus app? And then I realize, oh, right, it's in the ESPN app. They talk about the new pay-per-view deal and how fucking confusing it is. It's just so confusing. Like TJ, they basically just go and explain all of the news stories that have come out about it and how number one, they're not making it clear how it's beneficial to anybody other than the UFC. And number two, all of the like deals and bundles are really just ways to pay the exact same amount and get a minimal amount of more things, maybe kind of. There's also a lot to talk about cord cutting and how it's this is a terrible model for casual fans because you're forcing them to jump through so many fucking hoops, or for older fans too. So it was just an interesting episode, and I hope they do more of them because I really like that. I like Rob Tatum a lot. And TJ is, of course, the best in the business.
I saw that one, and I should have listened to it. I'll go back and I will. But yeah, ever since when Dana announced the whole exclusivity thing, I'm like, oh, Show Money guys probably have some really good input on that. So
they sure do. I'm going to talk about the Show Money one here in just a minute. Let's see. Did you have any well-rounded shows you wanted to bring up?
Yeah. So Bill Burr, of course. It's just my weekly shit.
It's always good.
So as far as this wasn't, I mean, I guess it's a podcast, but not really. But it got me to listen to another podcast that I hadn't listened to before, and it's been mentioned multiple times. I saw the new Hot Ones with Sean Evans. He had
Theo Vaughn. I was just about to bring that up.
That was hilarious, and now I definitely really want to check out Theo Vaughn's podcast.
This past weekend.
This past weekend, yeah.
It's really, really good. Just pick somebody you like and listen to that one. It's fucking great. Like, off the top of my head, he's had a couple fighters on, which are always good episodes. Like he had Dustin Poirier on, which was a really good one. Theo Vaughn's podcast is fucking fantastic. Yeah,
I should look at, but those are my choices. I guess I got cheated by watching a video thing instead of like.
To be fair, I do that all the time, and I also have written down Theo Vaughn on Hot Ones because Theo Vaughn is one of the fucking funniest people on the planet and an absolute sweetheart. I met him at the Comedy Store in La Jolla way back in the day. Super nice dude. I met him and Jason Tebow, and yeah, they're fucking hilarious. Theo's funny as hell. He's very nice. Cool. Yeah, the only other well-rounded one I had this week was Weird Things, which is a podcast hosted by Brian Brushwood, formerly of like Scam School, NSFW show, Modern Rogue, that kind of stuff. And he has a show with Andrew Main, who is who's like a writer and a skeptic and a bunch of he's gone on to do a lot of science stuff. And Justin R. Young, who of course also is from NSFW show and I think their new show Night Attack. that he does with Brian Brushwood. Just dudes that are very funny and very entertaining. Brian Brushwood is also a lot of times on the Whiskey Vault videos or the Whiskey Tribe videos on YouTube, because since they're all out of Austin. But Weird Things is a podcast where Brian and Andrew and Justin all hang out and talk about crazy things that happened. Kind of like some are science fiction side of things, some are more on the science side of things. And it's just a very entertaining show. Andrew Main will always bring fucked up topics and stories to the podcast. So like he'll bring a story about a plane crashing and people eating each other, and he'll run Brian through the scenario. Like, wait. So Brian.
No, sorry. I was sorry. I had to fucking think for a second. Like, how long were they there after the plane crash? If we need to start eating someone, sorry, I'll let you keep going.
No, so he always brings interesting topics like that where he'll be like, so Brian, and then he'll go into this thing like, okay, so say you were to go on a trip with you and your wife and your 2 kids, and you guys crash and land on a deserted island, and so you have to, he essentially walks them through having to pick which one of his family members he's saving at a time and which ones he's feeding to his other family members. Or like another time they talk about, he does one where he talks about they go to, and these are all like real news stories that he just finds randomly, and then he'll go in and talk about, hey, so you are, your wife's out of town and you're like, your daughter convinces you, oh, we need to get one of these crazy fireworks for 4th of July, and you find out that it was a bomb, not a firework, and it blows up your kid, but they can clone your kid. So if they clone your kid, do you tell your wife that the kid's a clone, or you just play it off like it's the same exact kid and you just let it go? So it's weird shit like that, which is very entertaining. And then they also talk about actual science stuff. Like for a very long time, Justin and Andrew Main, since they're both, I believe they're both in Florida, have for a long time been going to launches for like SpaceX and that kind of stuff and covering those in person. So it's just an interesting like science fiction-y kind of podcast. They also give recommendations for science and science fiction books that they've been reading, and it's really interesting. It's like lighthearted. They're like 40-50 minutes a piece, and it's just a lot of fun. I recommend it.
Well, it does sound fun, especially with crazy stories like people eating each other after.
Well, not only that, and then he talks to Brian about like, so Brian picks like, well, obviously we eat my wife first. So then I have to like play it off to the kids like she didn't die. So then he makes him pick which kid he's going to save. It's pretty great. Fucked up,
like
pretty great.
Fucked up, choose your own adventure.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what it feels like. Yeah, for sure.
Just imagine if the show Lost, just like say fuck it, 5th episode they start eating each other.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of those stories are based on actual things too, which is like, so he'll go through these whole series of events and be like, well, Brian, last year in Florida, and I walk through it, so it's pretty great.
See, I can imagine there's like some alternate shit, or if it was like a fucked up dark comedy, they have it where someone start getting eaten after plane crashes, and then like someone says, hey, there's like a store over there. What the fuck? You know?
I feel like that's happened in a couple movies, yeah.
Yeah.
At least in 1 or 2 stoner movies that's happened in. Speaking of stoner movies, did you ever watch the show Disjointed on Netflix?
No, you were talking about.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I know Kathy Bates. I'm sure she plays a fucking great role.
She's hilarious, but fuck that. Dank and Dabby in that show are the best. Evidently, it's a dude from SNL and I don't know, some random chick, but it's fucking hilarious. Anyway, Netflix killed it. So
that reminds me, it's like I need to go back and watch just like the popular. I mean, obviously there's Half Baked for stoner films, and then there's ones like Dude, Where's My Car? Harold and Kumar.
Dude, Where's My Car holds up so well.
It still does.
It's so dumb but so fun.
Ones that don't, and they will always just be bad, and you just have to know that going in, is like Biodome. Shit like that.
Oh, what are you talking about? Biodome's so good. But like in the dumbest campy kind of way.
I like Pauly Shore, but I don't really like, was it Stephen Baldwin? One of the guy who's in The Usual Suspects. He's a little fucking weird.
I mean, it's it's all right.
Yeah.
It's no Bill and Ted, but it's all right.
Which, by the way, they started production. So we started filming soon.
I know. I just randomly watched the last two or the first two Bill and Ted's like last weekend before. They're really good still.
See, this is the thing too. George Carlin wasn't dead; they'd bring him back. And if this guy didn't get in trouble, I would cast Louis C.K. as their guy. But well, I mean,
what are you gonna
they should
do?
still do it. But that's just my opinion.
They just put Rogan in there somewhere.
That could work out.
Right. Anyway, do you have any podcasts you also want to check out this week, or you recommend people give it a look?
I don't know if I mentioned him. MMA Vivisection was solid.
Mm-hmm.
Fights Gone By was good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Jack said bantamweight division was already log jammed. He thinks Dillashaw relinquished his belt due to damage control. He says he thinks there's no way in hell Cody gets another shot anytime soon, and he needs to fight someone who's near the bottom of the top 10 or even the top 15 now. He really needs to get another win. Mm-hmm. He thinks Cody should just take time off, like a lot of time off.
I think that's a good idea.
Like even like a year.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. They reevaluate. I wish he wasn't so loyal, because then he could go to another camp and get better. But
yep.
I got to respect loyalty. I respect it. But, I mean, come on, man. You got to be selfish if you're in the fight game. So, yeah. Then he just discussed the welterweight division and how Pettis stacks up with the rest of those guys and how underrated and great his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. So, that's all I have for some shout-outs.
Yeah, that was a good episode for sure. The only ones I had, Show Money episode 26 was very good. This one's mostly about the ESPN Plus pay-per-view deal. They talk a lot about how the app is pretty terrible, and then they talk a bit about Bellator getting more than reported for the DAZN deal, evidently. They talk a bit about PFL finances and their move to ESPN Plus, one going to Bleacher Report, that kind of stuff. They also did announce that they're aiming to start doing that show monthly, which I'm pretty excited about.
So did you say PFL went where?
PFL got signed by ESPN Plus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I forgot, does Ali still have anything to do with that organization?
I mean, depends on what you do. Fighters? Technically, no. But also, he had like 30% of the roster of PFL in the tournaments.
I remember that.
So...
And I remember you showed me the bracket.
Yeah, it's pretty sketch. Also, just before we started recording this episode, DAZN announced that they're raising their price to $20 a month.
And what was it currently, like 10 or 15?
I think it was like 5.
Wait, what?
Yeah, wow. Maybe it was 10, but I thought it was like 5. I thought it was like ESPN Plus.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be canceling my DAZN membership.
I imagine they got a bunch more boxing on.
Yeah, they have a ton of. They signed a crazy.
That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah. They signed a crazy amount of boxing talent, so that's mostly why. But yeah, it was a good episode overall. I'm excited that they're moving to monthly. If I Did It was good. Connor talked about picking a fight with Rogan. Or they talked about Connor picking a fight with Rogan, rather, and how Connor won't ever get stake in the company because he's a walking, talking liability.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. They talk about whether Masvidal's 3-piece should lead to the UFC making him versus Leon a main event.
I mean, I think so, absolutely. That's main event material. More so on Masvidal's side. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for sure. They also mentioned that the ESPN Plus pay-per-view deal, since the UFC now has a guaranteed amount that they receive from ESPN, regardless of how much they sell, it's going to disincentivize the UFC to actually push people more, which that could go either way. That could lead to either less gimmick fucking fights and PVZ main events, or it could lead to them just not giving a shit and ESPN having more sway over that stuff. So,
okay.
That'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then they talked about McNuggets, as Eugene calls him, on the bar, acting like he's in the Lost Battalion. And then Leon Edwards getting inducted into the Lost Battalion by snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yep. And real quickly, I know you're so fucking stoked that people keep bringing up the 3-piece Minnesota. Masvidal and Edwards, where should that fight be? Should it be in Kentucky? Or like, I was thinking Nashville would be hilarious because you get like Nashville hot chicken, that kind of shit, and if you wanted to be cheeky with it. But
I'm sure if they do that
You could do
fight,
Miami, right?
that's where you should do it. Yeah.
Yeah. When was the last time they were in Miami? Because I doubt they're going to Birmingham. And no, not Alabama. I'm talking about England.
Yeah, they don't really do shows in Miami though. Like they're going to like
Yeah.
fucking Florida,
Orlando
if I
or
remember right.
Tampa.
Or I mean, they're going to Fort Lauderdale here shortly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Which fuck Fort Lauderdale. Anybody who's been to Fort
I-
Lauderdale knows Fort Lauderdale sucks dick.
I've never been there. I've just heard in a song that it sucks.
I had to go for work back in the day for a conference that was at a Hard Rock down there, and it was fucking that whole city. It's so fucking Florida.
Yeah, you probably wanted to stay in the Hard Rock.
No, the Hard Rock was equally as it all sucked. It was all bad. I had
it is Florida.
The best part was I went to the Trader Joe's, which had Cigar City beers. That was the best part. Oh, actually, and it was the same weekend when I believe that was the same weekend when the first Sober October ended. Okay. I want to say either that or it was when Bert and Tom were doing the weight loss challenge. It was one of those videos. So I just got real trash in my hotel room and ate pizza and watched that.
Yeah, see, I got real trash at the Hard Rock, but it was the one here in San Diego.
Hey.
So, wasn't suffering as much.
Right. All right, I think the only other two things I had, Collapse MMA UFC 69 Part 1 was really good, but I feel like Part 2 is going to be even better. They talk about how it was the same weekend as Pride Kamikaze, which was Pride's last event, which is hilarious. That's what they called that event. And then they talk about Luke Kumo's latest videos, which are fucking insane, and fighter pay getting discussed less and less, or disclosed less and less, rather. And then CME episode 346 is pretty good. So that's about all I had this week. But yeah, even for a week that didn't have a ton of MMA content, or MMA podcast content, it was still pretty solid.
Yeah, wasn't too bad.
Cool. Well, we will go ahead and take a break here, and we will be back with part 2 for the second segment, where we will talk about the upcoming UFC on ESPN 6 UFC Fight Night Nashville, Thompson versus fucking Pettis card. I hate these names. I hate how fucking long they're getting. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not good.
Cool. We will be back in about 5 minutes or so to do that if you guys are watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, then you'll be able to hear on this break the clip of Dennis Bermudez playing PlayStation 3 and getting hammered on Four Locos. So enjoy that. We'll be right back.